In Paranormal Activity 2, after experiencing what they think are a series of break-ins, a family sets up security cameras around their home, only to realize that the events unfolding before them are more sinister than they seem. Paranormal Activity 2 is the sequel to Surprise Sleeper Hit of 2009. As you know, or as you might not, in case you didn't know, or as you might forget about it, Paranormal Activity, the first original movie, is actually an independent movie. It was shot in 2006 when the movie takes place. It premiered at festivals. People demanded it did a nationwide release. Literally demanded it, because there was a demanded website with a demanded button. It got a nationwide release. It was a hit. So Hollywood, Paramount, made a part prequel, part sequel called Paranormal Activity 2, obviously. Now, Paranormal Activity was a bit boring, as I said. However, because despite the first movie being actually pretty boring, you should still check out Paranormal Activity 2 because it is scary as hell. It's just, I mean, the last half hour of this movie is terrifying. I mean, the second half of this movie is scary stuff, man. It's just terrifying. Now, I mean, after the first movie was that's the movie that has so much hype, called one of the scariest movies of all time, and that was it. But after this movie, my heart was still beating so fast. I mean, I was just in shock. After that, I was just standing there shaking when the credits rolled. I mean, this movie is horrifying. It's extraordinarily scary. I mean, it's, however, the first half is actually pretty boring. Not as boring as the entire first movie, but still a bit boring. But don't turn it off. Stick around for the second half, because the second half is really scary. I mean, the scene when they're in the basement, oh my god. I mean, this movie made me scream and jump, and the suspense is terrible. Not as terrible as bad, just so good, you know? The suspense is just amazing. I mean, you're just so, on the edge of your seat in this movie. It's just, I think Paranormal Activity 2 is a masterpiece of horror, mostly. The problem is the first half. I mean, the second half of Paranormal Activity 2 is a masterpiece of horror. However, the first half is just boring, you know? I mean, you still shouldn't fast forward through it because you don't know when the second half exactly comes. And it's still worth watching to get an insight on what's going on. It's a part of the story, and there's still some things that'll make you jump. Just sit through it, alright? I mean, but once you finally get to that second half of the movie, I mean, get ready, you're gonna scream and just be on the edge of your seat. I say that overall, Paranormal Activity 2 is a masterpiece horror movie. It's not an overall masterpiece of a movie, but I think it's just an awesome horror movie. I mean, I'm more into slasher type movies, like Friday the 13th, Scream, Nightmare on Elm Street, those kind of things. But I think Paranormal Activity 2 is the most horror movie I've really seen, because it seems like slasher movies are more thriller, but they're still classified as horror. I mean, you still have to call them horror movies, you know. But the Paranormal Activity franchise is a true horror franchise. I mean, every movie except the first one is terrifying. I mean, the first movie is only, in my opinion, mildly scary. However, the rest of these movies are terrifying. The third one isn't as scary as 2 and 4, but we'll get to those later. But while the Paranormal Activity 2 is still just a very scary and creepy movie. It had more likable characters. I mean, it had more characters overall. The characters that were in this movie were more likable. And, so, I mean, and you wanted to see them get through this. So, overall, Paranormal Activity 2 is a awesome horror movie. It's a very good movie if you're a supernatural fan. I would still recommend seeing the first movie just to, see them all. And I'd say I gave Paranormal Activity 2 a 7 out of 10. And if it wasn't for the first half, I would give it an 8 out of 10. But because of the boring first half, it only gets a 7 out of 10, unfortunately.